Good afternoon and welcome to the third installment of America's Charities educational series, Saving the World One Paycheck at a Time, where we discuss the real-world impact of employee giving programs in the U.S. and across the globe. Today, we will hear from two of America's Charities' celebrated nonprofit partners, Best Friends Animal Society and Southern Poverty Law Center, on the value that they see in employee giving programs, what it means for achieving their mission, and how the funding they receive allows them to deliver services to their constituents, just like you and me. First, before we dive in, I'd like to introduce myself. My name is Emily Gross. I am Director of Client Engagement at America's Charities, and I will be leading our discussion today. A few housekeeping items before we get started. First, in order to make sure that everybody can hear properly, all attendees are muted for today's presentation. However, we will have time for Q&A at the end of the webinar. Please feel free to enter any questions you have throughout the course of the discussion using the questions section on GoToWebinar. We invite you to join our conversation online using the hashtag #ChangeStartsAtWork, which you will also find on the bottom right-hand side as we go through our slides. Finally, we will make the recording and slides for this presentation available once wrapped. Please check out the landing page for this on our website, as well as other resources, www.charities.org/ChangeStartsAtWork. And here is a preview of the landing page for Saving the World One Paycheck at a Time. As you can see from the menu on the right, there is a link to our webinar series, which includes a video library of all presentations. All right, so now that that is out of the way, I'd love to share with you a little bit more about America's Charities. If you have not already heard of us, we are a nonprofit organization that specializes in implementing employee engagement programs for employers, as well as vetting, placing, and spreading awareness of our member nonprofits in these initiatives. For nearly 40 years, we have inspired employees and organizations to support the charitable causes that they care about, with the end goal of bringing more resources to the nonprofits that are changing our world. And really at the core of all of this is that more employee giving has this amazing potential to bring about greater social impact. Our own research shows that people really want to work for a company that allows them to give back, and that they are willing to take a job that pays less in salary if it means they get to work for a company that's devoted to social responsibility. Employee giving currently generates about $5 billion a year for nonprofits, providing critical services in the world around us. This is 5 billion with a B. It's huge. Can you imagine the impact we could have if more of these programs existed? So our hope really with this series is to help you to find answers to the following questions. The first is, what would happen if employee giving didn't exist? What real-world difference does employee giving make in the world around us? Why is payroll deduction a more impactful giving method than others? What changes have there been in the realm of employee giving, and how is it evolving? How can we, as an all stakeholders, communicate the impact of employee giving better? And how does employee giving help all of us, employers, nonprofits, and individual donors, achieve greater social impact? Again, today we will be speaking with representatives from two of our nonprofit members. The first is Candy Maciel, Manager of Corporate Engagement at Best Friends Animal Society. Since joining Best Friends in 2011, she has managed high-profile pet adoption, transport, and outreach initiatives in Los Angeles. In her current role, she engages with companies and their employees who give back to Best Friends through monetary donations and volunteerism, working with a large portfolio of donors to craft individualized employee engagement opportunities for companies at Best Friends through their life-saving centers and events throughout the United States. Our second speaker is Willemijn Kaiser, Director of Institutional Giving at Southern Poverty Law Center. Willemijn has been with SPLC for 9 years and is responsible for developing, building, and managing SPLC's partnerships with national and international foundations, community foundations, and corporations in support of new projects and existing programmatic priorities. She also oversees SPLC's participation in workplace giving programs and works with companies in designing creative corporate engagement opportunities. So I'd like to give you, our audience, the opportunity to hear directly from both Candy and Willemijn about the critical work they are accomplishing at their respective organizations. Candy, let's start with you. Can you tell us a little bit more about Best Friends Animal Society?
Of course. Thanks, Emily, and good afternoon, everyone. I have the honor of representing Best Friends Animal Society today. Best Friends is a national nonprofit animal welfare organization. We've been around for over 35 years, and we work exclusively to end the killing of shelter pets in our nation's shelters. We operate one of the largest animal sanctuaries in the country in southern Utah, and we also have programs in life-saving centers in Los Angeles, Salt Lake City, New York City, Atlanta, and soon Houston, Texas. Our mission is really simple: make our country no-kill by 2025.
Great, thank you so much, Candy. That's such a fantastic summary. I'm going to hand it over now to Willemijn so we can hear a little bit more about SPLC. Willemijn?
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Emily, and welcome everyone. My name is Willemijn Kaiser, and about the SPLC, we are a national civil rights organization. And we use a three-pronged approach to achieve our mission to fight hate and bigotry and to seek justice for the most vulnerable members of our society. The first thing that we do is we track hate groups, and we educate the public, law enforcement, human rights organizations, the media, and Congress about issues like hate crimes, domestic extremism, radicalization, and things of that nature. Then we have a tolerance education program that we started more than 25 years ago that has the goal to reach children with lessons around empathy and respect for diversity. It is the largest anti-bias organization in the US. Our materials reach every school in the country. We have a self-titled magazine, we do professional development, we do podcasts, we do in-person training. So we really try to have a broad reach in order to reach educators in schools. And then we have a legal program where we work on standing up for victims of hate and to tackle systemic racism and institutional discrimination. So we have a really broad area of work.
That's fantastic, Willemijn. Thank you so much. I think what's so interesting about having the two of you present today is that you both represent organizations with very different missions, yet individual donors fuel so much of the funding that goes towards your programs. So I think it would be really helpful for our audience to hear, and I would love to know for my own knowledge, how did you both come to learn about employee giving? Candy, maybe we can start with you.
Sure. To be honest, my history and background with Best Friends and even before Best Friends really started in shelter management and working directly with animals. My first introduction to workplace giving and employee engagement was when I had the opportunity to move over to our development team 4 years ago. It was something that I wasn't really well versed in, wasn't really aware of, and I knew we had a lot of support coming to our organization, but I didn't understand how companies and their employees supported us. And to be honest, even in those 4 years since I have been involved with workplace giving, it has changed so much. It's entirely different now than it was even when I first learned about it.
Great, thank you. So Willemijn, how did you first hear about employee giving?
Yeah, it's such an interesting question. You may already know, and the audience has probably guessed that I am not from the United States. You can tell by my name and my accent. I was born and raised in the Netherlands, and I've lived all over the world. And when I moved to the United States about 11 years ago, one of the first things that I noticed after moving here is how generous people are in giving to nonprofits, but also that society has so many ways to encourage people to be philanthropic. And I really like that about living here, because I think that on an individual level, it results in a very intentional personal philanthropy. And on a societal level, I think that there's something of a joint responsibility to care for each other and wanting to create a better society. So again, it's something that I really admire. And when I started in my current job and learned about employee giving, it just made all the sense in the world to me, and it made me really enthusiastic to take on this work.
That's so interesting to hear from somebody who's not from the U.S. of how great we are at this initiative. Thank you, Willemijn, and thank you both for sharing. I know for all three of us, employee giving is such an important component of nonprofit fundraising, and I think to help articulate that more clearly to our audience, it may be useful to see the other side of the coin. What would happen if these programs didn't exist, or what would not happen if they didn't exist? So I'll pose two questions to both of you. First, Willemijn, how would the services SPLC provides be affected if employee giving did not exist? How are employee donors changing our world for the better?
That's such a good question, Emily. The SPLC has never in its history accepted government funding, so all of our funding comes from private sources. And just to put the funding in context, this year our expense budget is almost $87 million, and all of it will be raised privately. And the private sources are for the vast majority individual donors. And our individual donors, they just mean the world to us. They're the most important people in the world as far as I'm concerned. They make the work that we do possible, and we're so grateful to them. And we have so many individuals who have been with us throughout our history. More recently, in the past years, we know we have a whole set of new donors who are responding to the new climate of hate. But regardless of how long donors have supported us, what we're finding is that so many of our supporters look for a way to more deeply engage with the organization. And especially because SPLC, unlike a lot of other nonprofits, we only have limited volunteer opportunities. So workplace giving for us really does deepen the engagement that people have with the organization. And I also find that corporate engagement often also follows employee giving. We have several companies who reached out to us after they noticed that many of their employees give to us, just wanting to learn more about their work and see how they could contribute to the SPLC, either through raising awareness or through a corporate gift or through many, many other ways. So it's really important to us.
Thank you, Willemijn. Candy, what about you? How would it affect Best Friends Animal Society if employee giving didn't exist? And how do you see that employee donors are changing our world for the better?
Yeah, many organizations, including Best Friends Animal Society, rely on the support of the community to function. And this obviously includes employee giving programs. So for us, between monetary contributions and employee volunteerism, employee giving programs provide our organization the ability to run many life-saving programs that we currently operate. I would hate to think about what would happen if those programs ceased to exist, because without them, for us, we would lose volunteers, we would lose donations, and we would lose engagement with companies that have provided us so much support, many through their own channels, and have helped rally the community around our mission. Employee donors, in my opinion, are changing the world for better because they're providing funding for things that they care about. And for us, you know, so many of our supporters care deeply about animals and support our mission, that their donations and their volunteerism are really helping us realize that our goal of making the country no-kill by 2025 is possible.
Fantastic, thank you. So there's really this common thread that I see here, both with SPLC and Best Friends, and that's that you're using employee giving programs as a way to engage directly with real people in their workplaces all over the country. This is huge for two reasons. First, it means that your organizations are able to meaningfully connect with individuals and develop a more engaged support base over time. Second, I think this is such a critical piece for companies looking to deliver on what employees really want at work, and that's the ability to engage in social impact while on the job. So to know, that you're an employee who is part of a purpose-driven work environment. Clearly, employee giving, goes hand in hand with fostering a more socially minded culture at work that then influences the world around us. So with that, I would love to hear more about SPLC. Willemijn, maybe we can pick back up with you and then hear from Candy. What are your feelings about payroll deduction, where an employee gives a set amount over the course of a year, which is deducted from their paycheck by their employer? So why is payroll deduction advantageous for donors to give that way as opposed to other methods like Facebook and text to give?
Yeah, it's a really good question, and I think there are multiple answers from my perspective. First of all, I think that payroll deduction allows for a longer-term engagement with the charities that supporters support through payroll deduction, as opposed to one-off donations. And that longer-term engagement is really valuable for charities because it allows charities to really plan their program ahead, knowing that that support is coming in, that they can count on that support. But I think it's also very meaningful for supporters because it allows people to really reach larger philanthropic goals over time. Similar like 401 deductions that go through your payroll eventually adds up to a large amount. And I think it's the same with payroll deductions for charity, that it's really valuable in that way. I also think it's important for employee satisfaction and employee retention, especially millennials, and you already hinted to that a little bit, Emily, because corporate social responsibility is really a key factor for millennial in for how long they choose to work for a company. And going back to the charity perspective is not all fundraising methods other than payroll giving give donor information. So Facebook or text to give only give limited information to a charity, and I think that is incredibly frustrating for the charity because we want to properly thank our donors. But I think it's also frustrating for our supporters because when they give money through Facebook or text to give or other ways, and they do not leave a thank you, it leaves them frustrated with the charity. So I really think that payroll deduction is such a fantastic way of giving.
Great, thank you for that great summary. Candy, what do you think about payroll deduction? Why do you think it's more advantageous?
Sure. To me, the biggest benefit of workplace giving programs is the collective and also the consistent support. So for us, when a company and their employees choose to support Best Friends, for example, it creates a relationship between their team and ours. So, that relationship can benefit both parties and it can grow as the engagement deepens. For us, it gives us a chance to learn about the team, the employees and the company that's supporting us. We learn about their talent and skills so we can put them to great use if they want to do, skills-based volunteering, for example. And in turn, they learn about our programs and mission and can help become a champion of our cause in their own personal circle and community. So they feel more connected to our cause and are more consistent with their ongoing support. They're really invested in what we do. And on the flip side, we become invested in them as a donor and stewarding that relationship. I really love what Willemijn just said about the frustration of sometimes not knowing the donors who are are supporting your organization not being able to properly thank them. You know, online donations are wonderful, but they're very transactional. And to me, workplace giving is all about relationship building. We really want to know our donors. We want to be able to properly acknowledge them and thank them. And we also want them to get involved because we have a lot of need for that as well. And then also, you know, another huge benefit to payroll deduction is just the ease of the process. For a charity, it's a really easy way to collect donations, and you know, even though it's many small donations on the employee part, it comes to the charity as one lump sum, and it's really easy for us to process that and to acknowledge our donors. And for employers, it's super simple to set up, and then really it just kind of runs itself. It's, you know, maybe just once a year, some adjustment, employees changing their allocation and whatnot, but it's really an easy way to give. Comes directly out of your paycheck, automatically deducted. You don't have to think about it, no work once it's set up, and then, you know, that support is just ongoing, which we all very much appreciate.
You both bring up such great points, especially, you know, it's funny, Candy, you mentioned the ease of the process. Totally true story. Last week I was in downtown DC at an event, and there was a representative there from a Fortune 10 company, and we got to talking, and you know, she was talking about how incredibly busy she is, but how she still wants to be able to support the causes that she cares about. And she wished that she could, you know, set aside a certain amount per paycheck and then just automatically have it, you know, taken out and go to the charity of her choosing. And I'm like, that exists. You know, payroll deduction exists. It's a real thing. I represent an organization that helps people do exactly that. And it's like the concept of payroll deduction needs to be revisited or refreshed or revamped so that younger generations of employees also know that it's an option. Because the funniest thing also is that it exactly is the method of support that nonprofits really want. They want, you know, that consistent funding that's coming in over the course of a year, rather than just, you know, a large amount of gifts coming in throughout the year, but being unpredictable. So we hinted at this already when we talked about the effect of Facebook and text to give. You know, employee giving has changed, particularly over the past 10 years, and it's interesting to see how it has adapted to new technology and changing donor preferences. Candy, what are your thoughts on this, and how do you see this evolving?
Yeah, like I mentioned earlier, you know, I've seen workplace giving transform so much just in the last few years since I've been in this role, and I think we are still going to see a lot of change coming up in the future. You know, initially, my thought on it was that it was very transactional. There wasn't a lot of contact or communication between donors and the companies and charities. And still is to some degree with Facebook and text to give. Some people really want that ability to donate without having necessarily a relationship or communication with the charity that they're donating to. But on the flip side, I do see actually a lot more of employers and employees who want to have a relationship with the nonprofits that they're supporting. They want to volunteer, they want to know the programs that they are donating to, and they really want to be part of the cause. In fact, I think it's changed so much so that for us at Best Friends, we've really stopped referring to it as workplace giving internally, started focusing on the terminology more being corporate engagement or employee engagement, because for us it's more than just the monetary donations. It's really about relationships and a greater sense of support coming from these donors. Like I said, I think we're going to continue to see a shift in the next few years where there's more focus on employee volunteerism and deep-rooted relationships between companies and nonprofits. Companies are already, you know, going that direction, and I think it's going to continue. I definitely foresee more paid time off for employees to volunteer. A lot of companies are already offering that, but I think it's something that's going to increase. And definitely more emphasis on corporate group volunteer projects, you know, team building and getting their team involved all together to volunteer. And then lastly, more of a tie between corporate engagement and cause marketing. So, companies that have big cause marketing campaigns with a nonprofit also wanting to get their employees involved to support that nonprofit through volunteerism and, other ways like sharing about the cause to their friends and family and to their social circles.
Yeah, we definitely see, the volunteering, the growth and the desire to volunteer and get paid time off to volunteer, as well as the emphasis on cause marketing and the programs that we help manage at America's Charities. Employees are definitely looking for newer, more direct ways to engage with particular causes. Willemijn, what do you think? How do you see this space evolving?
Yeah, first of all, I totally agree with everything that Candy just said, and especially around the cause marketing. I think you're absolutely spot on. I think from my perspective, what I'm seeing is that across the country, millennial workers are really driving change within our workplaces. They're expecting companies to be good corporate citizens, and they're very impatient about it. And I think that's a good thing. And I think it's so important to listen to our youngest generation of workers. They have so much to bring to the table. And more importantly, they will be leading our companies and our nonprofits in the next year as time goes on. So that's one big change that I see. Another large change is, I think, an increased understanding, and Candy already mentioned a little bit around this, within workplace giving, that it is so much more than just a transaction. I think that giving to charity always is an expression of your values, whether those values are support for the fantastic work of the Best Friends Animal Society mission to make sure that no animal gets killed in shelter, or to help SPLC mission to fight hate, teach tolerance, seek justice, or whether it is to support maybe a local nonprofit. But values are not just important to supporters, but also to companies. And for companies to say, these are the values that we support through our employees and through our corporate social responsibility policies, I think that is very powerful. And I think that is something that more and more companies are looking toward.
You both have just covered this so well. I think it's so important. A company's values are really going to be what drives employee retention. Yes. This is the piece de resistance, and it's why we are so optimistic about the future. There is a simultaneous market demand for employee engagement and corporate social responsibility. So employee giving and volunteering is kind of the natural response to that demand. It's mutually beneficial at both the level of the company and the level of the individual. Plus, it's a sustainable source of funding for nonprofits. It's kind of like, why isn't there more of this, right? So I asked the question, why isn't there more of this? And I think, that leads to, how can we better communicate the impact of employee giving? Willemijn, what do you think about that? How do we spread the word?
Well, Emily, I think in two ways. I think it's really important to tell the story, and by tell the story, I mean go beyond the immediate impact. Like the immediate impact would be like the telling of the numbers, so how many animals have been saved or how many schools use our tolerance resources. These are really, really important, don't get me wrong, but I think that there's a story behind the impact numbers that we have to tell, and I think that is the larger story of the values that employees and companies support through workplace giving. And I think that Best Friends Animal Society does that really well by its focus on no-kill communities, by really bringing communities together and putting the value of no-kill central to that. And I think SPLC does it through the focus on equal justice and equal opportunity for all. But at the same time, I also think it's helpful to highlight just how much workplace giving contributes to charities. You already mentioned it, Emily. I don't think that many people realize that it's 5 billion would it be a year in charitable giving through workplace giving. So when I read that number, it even was a surprise to me. So I Googled what can $5 million buy you not long ago, just to put that number in context. So some of the answers that came up, courtesy of Google, $5 billion provides housing for every homeless person in the US for a year. Or it would provide Medicaid for 1.4 million people. So when you think of it like that, it makes clear just how much good workplace giving dollars do. So what would happen if it were not $5 million, but $10 million? You know, if we were able to double that, just think about all the good that those dollars would do.
Wow, yeah, that is so cool. Googling the number and just seeing the impact of it around us. Candy, what do you think? How do we spread the word?
Willemijn was spot on. Storytelling, that's so important. Impact is so important, and sharing that information on where the donor money is going and the impact that's being created because of that. And also, just on a side note, $5 billion. I've never Googled what $5 billion could do, but now I'm on a mission to do some research, because that's a lot of money, and she's right. That's a lot of impact and a lot of really great work that's being done. Also, similar to what we talked about earlier, I think we could also benefit from rethinking the terminology of how we represent workplace giving. You know, a lot of people don't know what workplace giving means, and it represents such a broad program now. And if we're focusing just on the donations, so just on payroll deduction and one-time donations, we're really missing out on larger opportunities for engagement, which is what companies and their employees really desire nowadays. And I think that if we start to represent workplace giving for what it truly is, which is multifaceted relationships, and we can put emphasis on all components equally, then more people will understand not only what it is, but the importance of how it impacts a company and how it keeps their employees happy, how it helps support so many charities, which in turn make impacts through programs in neighborhoods and communities across the United States.
Thank you so much. You know, I just think, yeah, like you said, the 5 billion number is huge. Thank you for Googling that, Willemijn. So when we think of this, it's really just the tip of the iceberg. You know, there's so much potential for further engagement, and we can see just how big this movement can grow. So when we communicate this as untapped potential and say there is an opportunity cost that affects the wellness of our communities when we don't participate in employee giving, maybe we can help people see what a great mechanism for social impact we have here. So we are nearing the end, and I just have one last question for both of you. So Candy, let's start with you. Can you bring this home for us? How does employee giving help all stakeholders, not just employers or nonprofits or individual donors, but all of us collectively to achieve greater social impact?
Sure. You know, from my perspective, working at Best Friends, you know, workplace giving has really helped us grow our supporter base. And for a nonprofit like ours, what's most important is that we need champions for our cause to help spread our mission and help end the killing of shelter pets. That is where we're going to have the greatest social impact. So, you know, yeah, we need donations to run our programs, but we really also need public awareness for our mission. And I know Willemijn's organization is the same way. We need people to know about our organizations. We need them to know about what we're doing and how they can get behind us and help. Workplace giving has expanded our supporter base. It's helped us grow our brand and our cause. And for us, ultimately, that's helped us save more animals. For our partners, our corporate partners, it's really given them the ability to focus their passion and align their brand with the cause they support. You know, they're getting to make a larger impact, and it's benefiting not only their employee morale, but the image and brand of their company as well. And for so many companies, that's really important today. And then for individual donors, they're creating a greater sense of involvement. They're craving that, and they're getting that. They're not just donating a few dollars here or there. They're actually getting to be involved with our mission and our programs and do more and really be involved. They're getting to choose, what they care about, and they're choosing us. They're choosing Willemijn's organization, and they're not only getting to put their dollars behind it, but their time as well. And that is how we're going to achieve greater social impact. Is everybody is going to find their place in this. The employers, the nonprofit, the individual donor, the employees. They're going to find their role. They're going to find the charity and the programs that matter most to them, and they're going to be able to get involved and put their all behind it.
Thank you so much. Willemijn, do you have anything to add?
Well, that was a very complete answer by Candy. Thank you so much. I fully agree with all of that, and I agree with you, Candy, that the social impact is being carried by charities and companies and employees alike. And for the SPLC, I think it helps deepen the engagement on all those levels, on the charity level, on the company level, on the employee level. And it really helps raise awareness, at least from SPLC's perspective, on the importance for not just SPLC to speak out against hate, but also for companies to speak out against hate, and for individual employees to speak out against hate. So it really deepens the engagement on that level as well.
Great. Thank you so much, both of you, for this awesome discussion. If you haven't already, you can go ahead and enter any questions that you have for our amazing panelists into GoToWebinar. We'll start taking questions as they come in. I think so far we've had a couple come in, so I'm going to go ahead and start with, so we've talked about kind of the shorter term, or I guess the effects of workplace giving in moving towards your mission. So what are some long-term benefits to both of your organizations that you've seen directly result from employee giving? I think we touched on this a bit already, but maybe we can dive a little deeper. Willemijn, maybe we can start with you. How do you think this has helped Southern Poverty Law Center in the long term?
Yeah, I think we talked about it earlier a little bit, is that workplace giving really allows us to plan our programs out over a longer period of time. And just to put it in some context, in the past 3 years, we almost doubled in size. We went from almost 200 employees to close to 400 employees. We doubled our expense budget that we're spending on our programs, we did that because we really saw a need within society, just the enormous growth of hate and discriminatory policies that we're standing up against, but also because there were so many individual supporters who were supporting us through individual donations, but also through longer term planning through workplace giving. So we made a strategic decision to grow really quite fast over a short period of time. And we were able to do that because we knew we had the workplace giving and the individual donations to support us through this growth.
Great, thank you. Candy, could you elaborate a little bit on that, of any long-term impact that you've seen on Best Friends?
Yeah, absolutely. I agree definitely with Willemijn on the fact that it has been a consistent support for us. We've seen our donations from workplace giving increase year over year, so it's been a way for us to, know, at least in one part of our development team, that we have not a guaranteed source of donations, but relatively guaranteed. We have a good support base there. But personally, what I really love benefit-wise for us has been the volunteerism aspect. We have a lot of volunteer opportunities in our organization, ranging from helping at our life-saving centers, walking dogs, petting cats, that sort of thing, to getting involved in the community, even on legislative advocacy alerts and getting people involved in their communities. And, you know, workplace giving has given us the opportunity to have also a consistent base of supporters that are volunteering with us. They are visiting our centers, they are coming and doing special projects. They love doing landscaping projects at our adoption centers. They love working with dogs and cats and at our sanctuary with pigs and reptiles, and they love getting involved and doing whatever work is needed. So not only donating to us and helping fund our programs, but also really being boots on the ground and being there to help us with whatever we really need. And that's definitely been a huge benefit for us, because we could not function not only without the donations, but also without the physical support as well. We have large programs, we have a lot that we are trying to do, and you know, there's no way that we could afford to hire as many staff as we would need to accomplish all of that. So we rely on volunteers so much, and these corporate groups have been able to really fulfill that need for us from start to finish and be there consistently, and that's been so appreciated.
Great, thank you so much. One more question, and then I think we'll go ahead and call it a day. Can you elaborate on some of the various ways that employees can deepen their engagement with both of your organizations? I know, Candy, you touched on the animal sanctuary. Willemijn, what ways can companies and employees become more involved with SPLC?
Yeah, that's a great question, Emily. There are a number of ways. I think one way to deepen engagement is by raising awareness, and even that can be as simple as sharing a social media post, or it can be much more elaborate. We have different guides available. One of our popular guide that I make available to companies is a guide. It's called 10 Ways to Fight Hate, and it is a way for communities to come together and take a stance against hate. And many companies have been using it within their workplaces to sort of make sure that there's this understanding that they stand up against hate, and there's really that space within the company to do that. We also sometimes have SPLC speakers that we make available to companies, and we do have some volunteer opportunities. We started a project here in the Deep South. It's called the Southeast Immigrant Freedom Initiative, where we provide free legal representation to immigrants in very remote detention facilities. So if companies have attorneys that want to help with that, they can go to our website, and under the Southeast Immigrant Freedom Initiative, look under the volunteer opportunities, or they can simply send me an email and I'll put them in touch with the appropriate people. But we also have a need for non-attorneys, especially Spanish-speaking attorneys. So there are some volunteer opportunities that we have available. But I think what's important to me, from my perspective, is that there's no one size fits all. You know, every company is different, every employee base is different, every company skill set is different. So I really welcome creative opportunities, and welcome the opportunity to talk with companies about ways that we can work together. And I don't want to take too much time, but one of my favorite initiatives that I worked on was an initiative with a creative agency who helped us put Know Your Rights advice for immigrants in a song. And the song was recorded by a band who donated their time. The agency donated their time and their talent. And now the song is on Spotify. It's being played on the radio. So that's a very creative way that I think we really welcome, that really builds on the skill set of a company.
So cool. Thank you so much, Willemijn. Candy, do you have anything to add about ways that employees can deepen their engagement?
Absolutely. And again, I'm going to agree with Willemijn on this. You know, for us, yes, we have a lot of opportunities for groups and individuals to volunteer, but we're also happy to work with partners to create individualized employee engagement opportunities based on, you know, the skill sets of the team, the interests that they have, the time that they have available. We have companies that have taken a week-long trip to our sanctuary and volunteered with animals and done a team bonding experience. We have companies that will show up at one of our life-saving centers for 4 hours on a weekday and help clean dog kennels and socialize cats, which is always needed. And then we have companies that, you know, sometimes can't necessarily even leave their office. They're very busy, and they're making pet beds and blankets out of fleece material and shipping them to shelters that we work with and need. And all of that is extremely appreciated and valuable for the programs that we're running. So we're happy to work directly with anyone that wants to get involved with us and find what that sweet spot is. And you know, we really appreciate all the support and the help, and we will never turn anybody away. So if they have a special skill or talent and they want to get involved and save animals, we will definitely work with them to do that.
Awesome. Thank you both so much for your time today. And you've helped us understand how change truly does start at work, and that by investing in a nonprofit through employee giving, an employee can help save the world one paycheck at a time. For those of you who joined us, thank you so much. If you are a nonprofit or represent either a corporate or a government employer, we encourage you to join us for America's Charities Collective Impact Conference. That's going to be held on Friday, June 7th in downtown Washington, D.C. Current nonprofit members of America's Charities may join beginning at 10 o'clock in the morning. All other attendees, we ask you to join us beginning at 12:30 p.m. For an afternoon of exciting panel presentations, best practices, and cross-sector collaboration, followed by a networking happy hour. To register, please go to the URL on your screen, charities.org/collective-impact-conference. Again, that's charities.org/collective-impact-conference. And once again, this presentation is part of our series, Saving the World One Paycheck at a Time. More information can be found on our website, charities.org/change-starts-at-work. The recording of this webinar will also be made available afterwards. Please continue to share your thoughts and promote our campaign on social media through #ChangeStartsAtWork. If you have any questions about starting an employee giving campaign, becoming a member of America's Charities, or are looking for additional resources, please don't hesitate to contact us at clientsolutions@charities.org. Our next installment of this program will be held at Collective Impact Conference, so that's one reason to come. So thank you all so much again, and thank you to Willemijn and Candy. Everyone have a great afternoon. Bye-bye.